Bigger dreams, bigger glass. By the early 18th century, telescopes were no longer new gadgets. They had proven themselves powerful tools for science, unlocking moons, planetary rings, and entire new ways of understanding the cosmos. But astronomers weren't satisfied. If a small refractor could reveal Saturn's rings, what could a much bigger telescope show? If Newton's reflector solved chromatic aberration, what would happen if we scaled it up 100 times? These questions pushed the telescope into a new era defined by scale, innovation, and bold ambition. This was the age when telescopes became colossal machines of discovery. They transformed from modest backyard instruments into towering monuments of science. This period gave us some of the most legendary telescopes in history: massive refractors, sprawling reflectors, and even one telescope so gigantic it was nicknamed the Leviathan. It was also an age of collaboration, as family teams, craftsmen, and scientists worked side by side to advance human vision farther than ever before. Let's step into this world of grinding lenses, pouring molten metal, and wrestling with the heavens. John Dalland and the achromatic lens. If you've ever looked through an old refracting telescope, you've probably noticed something frustrating. Stars and planets tend to have colored halos around them, almost like a blurry rainbow. This flaw, called chromatic aberration, happens because lenses bend light of different colors at different angles. Galileo and Huygens knew about it, but there wasn't much they could do. Newton hated it so much he abandoned refractors altogether, opting for mirrors instead. But in 1758, John Dalland, a London optician, came up with a solution: the achromatic lens. Instead of using a single piece of glass, Dalland combined two different kinds, crown glass and flint glass, each bending light in slightly different ways. Together, they canceled out much of the color distortion. Suddenly, refractors were back in the game. Achromatic telescopes gave sharp, crisp images without the psychedelic rainbow edges. Dalland's innovation spread quickly across Europe, and his instruments became the new standard for observatories and wealthy amateurs alike. For the first time, refractors could compete with Newtonian reflectors and, in some cases, even surpass them. Humorously, Dalland didn't invent the achromatic lens from scratch. Other people had tinkered with the idea before him. But as with many great inventions, timing and marketing mattered. Dalland patented it, sold it widely, and secured his place in history. His lenses were so good that even kings and queens were lining up to buy telescopes from his shop. If there's one name that dominates 18th century telescope history, it's William Herschel. Born in Hanover, Germany in 1738, Herschel was a musician by trade, a composer and organist who eventually moved to England. But his true passion became the night sky. Dissatisfied with the telescopes he could afford, Herschel decided to build his own. Using Newton's reflector design as a base, Herschel began grinding his own mirrors out of speculum metal, a copper tin alloy that was shiny but frustratingly quick to tarnish. He experimented endlessly, often staying up late into the night polishing mirrors until his arms ached. His sister Caroline Herschel assisted him, not only with household duties but also with observations and recording data. Together, they became one of astronomy's most famous sibling duos, and their hard work paid off. In 1781, using one of his homemade telescopes, Herschel discovered a new planet, Uranus. At first, he thought it might be a comet, but its steady orbit confirmed it was a planet, something no one had done since antiquity. This discovery catapulted him to fame, earning him royal patronage from King George III. But Herschel didn't stop there. He built bigger and bigger telescopes, culminating in his 40-foot-long reflector with a 48-inch mirror, the largest telescope in the world at the time. This monster telescope was so massive it required a system of pulleys and scaffolding to operate. Neighbors probably thought Herschel was building a siege weapon or some kind of early spaceship. With his instruments, Herschel cataloged nebulae, double stars, and clusters, laying the groundwork for modern astrophysics. He even speculated about the structure of the Milky Way, attempting to map it out by counting stars in different directions. While not entirely accurate, his vision was astonishingly forward-thinking. Caroline Herschel, the Comet Hunter. It would be unfair to talk about William without giving credit to Caroline Herschel, who became one of the first women recognized in astronomy. She discovered 8 comets and published important star catalogs that guided astronomers for decades. While William was focused on building and observing, Caroline often did the painstaking work of recording data and calculating positions. Her work earned her a salary from the king and extraordinary recognition for a woman in the 18th century. Today, she's remembered as a pioneer who proved that women could make serious contributions to science long before it was socially accepted. Public fascination and cultural impact. By the 18th and 19th centuries, telescopes weren't just scientific tools, they were cultural icons. Newspapers reported on discoveries like Uranus with the same excitement reserved for royal gossip. Wealthy families purchased telescopes for entertainment, treating them like high-tech toys at dinner parties. There was also a growing sense of cosmic wonder. The more telescopes revealed, the bigger the universe seemed to be. Herschel's nebulae catalog hinted at countless worlds beyond our own. Parsons' spiral galaxies suggested unimaginable distances. For ordinary people, telescopes blurred the line between science and philosophy, raising deep questions about humanity's place in the cosmos. And, naturally, telescopes sparked satire and humor too. Caricatures showed astronomers perched on giant ladders, peering through absurdly long tubes. Some skeptics mocked the obsession with bigger instruments, joking that astronomers spent more time building telescopes than actually using them. In truth, they weren't entirely wrong. But without those bold experiments, the breakthroughs of later centuries would never have happened. The giant leap forward, the 18th and 19th centuries were the age of giants in telescope history. From Dahlen's achromatic lenses to Herschel's colossal reflectors and the Leviathan of Parsons' Town, each leap in size and design expanded humanity's reach into the stars. These weren't just technical upgrades, they were profound shifts in how we saw the universe. By the end of the 19th century, telescopes had gone from fragile wooden tubes to massive observatory instruments. Astronomy was no longer a hobby for a few curious scholars, it had become a professional science supported by governments, universities, and even industrial-scale engineering. The stage was set for the next revolution, the rise of modern observatories, astrophotography, and eventually, the first steps into radio and space-based astronomy. And that's part 3 wrapped up. We just traveled through the age when telescopes got huge, from Dahlen's crisp achromatic lenses to Herschel's planet-hunting reflectors, and finally to the monster Leviathan in Ireland that spotted the first spirals of galaxies. This was the era of bold experiments, epic failures, and jaw-dropping discoveries. Telescopes weren't just tools, they were statements of human ambition. Next up in Part 4, we'll move into the 19th and early 20th centuries where photography joins the game, observatories get industrial-scale upgrades, and radio dishes start listening to the universe. So stay tuned because the story is only getting bigger, sharper, and stranger.